Tucker Carlson goes extremely viral, asking one simple question about autism. We have so much to unpack here. My name is Elijah Schaefer, and this is VNN's Beyond the Headlines. Well, the Vigilant News reports that Tucker Carlson went on record with Patrick Bet-David asking a simple question about autism, and he makes an extremely good point. Rather than listening to me bore you, I'd love for you to listen to his inquiry and tell me, is this pseudoscience or does he have a very important point to make? Watch.
Robert De Niro, when he's at a film festival and a documentary was coming out about vaccine by, I think, Del Bigtree, and he's talking about the documentary because he's got an autistic son. I think he's like 22 or 23 years old. That's one area where he's like, we have to look into this. What's going on with this? And he's kept it kind of to him. At the time, the kid was 16 years old. But I think there's some moments, and they try to hide it as much as possible. So Robert De Niro
suggested there's a link between vaccines and autism.
You've never seen this interview?
No.
I have to show it to you afterwards. Okay. So he's talking about it, and the host is trying to shut him up. And he's, you guys got to see this documentary. And he's not one that uses his kids as a, we know where he's at with Trump. We know he's got TDS. Yeah. We know he loses his mind. But when it comes down to vaccine and autism, that is a very personal thing to him.
But can you imagine not being allowed to ask?
Yeah, that's a problem.
I mean, I don't know if that's true or not. There's some evidence that it is true, and we do know that they took the additive out of the vaccine, but it, of course, had nothing to do with autism. But like, in what world can't you ask that question or demand like a straightforward answer? They're forcing your kids to take this stuff.
Things have gotten so out of control on childhood vaccines and autism. World Council for Health is saying parents are urged to adopt a common sense, safer to wait approach. What does that mean? That means deferring on the childhood schedule. 5 studies now show, in the modern day, 5 studies show children who take no vaccines, none. They're born healthy, they take no vaccines. They're healthier than the kids who take the vaccines. There's lower rates of food allergies, peanut allergies. That's all coming from the peanut excipients in vaccines. There's lower rates of asthma, allergic dermatitis, need for tympanostomy tubes. Lower rates of attention deficit disorder, Asperger's disease, lower rates of autism spectrum disorder by a mile.
So what the Dr. McCullough is suggesting here is very interesting, right? People constantly say, and of course my background's in molecular biology, and we, have units, especially when you're taking microbiology, where you obviously have to, swear upon your grave that vaccines are not causing autism in any way. And in fact, when you go on websites and read about autism, they say that it's not, environmental factors or food or any of these things that's causing autism. It cannot be. It's not real. It's not happening. And so it is rather interesting to ask yourself, well, then what is causing this? That is a good question, and I want to know. That's why I want to watch another video here that was another interview where I think this was Tucker Carlson on Joe Rogan talking directly about the Amish and what's going on there. And before we talk about that, guys, it is so important to realize that the government is screwing us over, especially when it comes to our debt. And right now, I want to remind you, stop ignoring the signs of the stress that your debt is causing you. And right now, my friends at donewithdebt.com have the official way that you can get out of debt today without filing for bankruptcy, without pulling out a personal loan, but it's time sensitive. If you have debt that you are trying to offload, if you can't pay it back, if you are struggling, I get it. I know, I have been there, and it sucks. Go to donewithdebt.com, donewithdebt.com, click Vigilant News at checkout, and they're going to help you today to get rid of your debt. Because people like this in the government, they hate you. And that's why we have to talk about what's happening here with the Amish and what's going on. Check this out right now.
Like, I don't know, is your average Amish teenager happier than your average conventional American teenager on Instagram? And of course the answer is, oh yeah.
Well, they certainly have less instances of autism, which is really fascinating. It's very, very fascinating.
The Amish have less autism?
Yeah, there's almost none.
Well, I'm not surprised.
It's extremely rare.
Why do we think that is?
Well, I wonder. I really do.
I can think of a couple. Yeah, it's funny. I don't want to go Bobby Kennedy.
Well, that's the problem.
Right.
If you go Bobby Kennedy, they'll come for you.
But
the
why?
question is why?
Look, and I don't know the answer, but
How is that not in the debate? How is that not in the conversation?
Well, it's not only not in the conversation, you're punished for adding it to the conversation.
Yes.
And so, like,
we are dancing around anti-vax conspiracy theories right now.
But why be on the defensive? It's like, if you purport to represent science and you're mad about a question.
And you're ignoring data.
Yeah, but even in the absence of data.
Right.
Science is a process.
Yes.
It's not a result. It's a way of doing things. And at the core of science is asking questions, including unlikely questions.
Right.
That's what science is.
Right.
And if you don't allow that, then you may be doing something, but what you're not doing is science. We can say that conclusively.
Right.
So for people to wrap themselves in the mantle of science and attack you for asking a question, they're frauds.
Yeah, and they are frauds. And that's the problem that we have consistently. Look, I'm not here making a case that vaccines are causing autism but I have to question myself. When you ask questions and people chastise you as being retarded, for lack of better words, or stupid, and instead of just answering you and explaining to you like why you're wrong, they try to make you seem like you're some sort of a Luddite. And we saw this with the pandemic. This is currently still going on with the wars in Ukraine and Israel. When you question things early on, did they let October 7th happen? Did NATO push too far towards Russia? You get called a Putin puppet or an anti-Semite. And then you ask about this. It's like, oh, what about vaccines? I mean, you got called a science denier during the scamdemic. The masks, you get called, you try to kill your grandma. And so with the vaccines, we just want to know, why are there high instances of autism? What is causing this? Is it the microplastics? Is it the environment? Is there a developmental issue? Is it genetic? Come on. They tell us what it's not, but they don't tell us what's going on. And we deserve to know. I'd love to know your thoughts below in the comments on what you think is going on with autism. What is causing it? Don't forget to like the video as well and share it. Grab the link, share it with your friends and family, retweet it, whatever you got to do. I'm Elijah Schaefer, and this has been VNN's Beyond the Headlines. See you next week.